I wish I could say I was glad something was coming, but I've made no qualms that I'm not really particularly excited for this, but I'll still watch it because I'm a DC shill and I'll just watch anything that's put in front of me,
That's
even if
right.
it's made by Zack Snyder. Well, we now have a release date for the Snyder Cut of Justice League. It's for our epicness that it will be. March 18th, 2021, which for those of you keeping track at home, that's a Thursday. And there's those people that still believe there's a war going on between DC and Marvel that are just like, they did it so they can release one day before Falcon Winter Soldier and steal all of its thunder. I'm going, Falcon Winter Soldier is going to be coming out for weeks upon weeks upon weeks. It's going to have that initial surge, but it's got legs as opposed to the Snyder Cut's going to be everyone's going to watch. And more than likely, to call out now, they'll crash HBO Max's servers because HBO Max's
Yes.
servers are already pretty crappy as is. But the Snyder Cut fans, as much as they really annoy the crap out of me and they more or less bully everybody, they're loyal to a fault. And I've said it before, Snyder Cut fans, don't you dare pirate this. You've asked for this, so actually support it. They're going to crash HBO Max. Why they're releasing on a Thursday is just an odd pick. So in addition to the posters... Now, in addition to the release date, Zack Snyder also teased some posters with some text over some of the images saying one of them is fallen, one of them is risen, and I forget what the other one is. I'm just going, are you trying to build up hope and inspiration now because your universe has been really bleak so far? But again, we have not seen Justice League. Maybe this is the most hopeful and optimistic one, and we're going on a journey through these movies, but so far nothing's really convinced me that that's what's happening here. I do feel pretty confident saying though that we'll probably get a trailer for the Snyder Cut this Sunday during the Super Bowl because it's a streaming thing. If we do get any trailers this Sunday, I think they'll all be for stuff that is guaranteed to not be moving release dates because they'll be going to streaming, like a Falcon Winter Soldier trailer, maybe something for WandaVision. Snyder Cut is very, very likely. Maybe something for Hulu. Streaming trailers will be at the Super Bowl, but not actual movie trailers because no studio wants to pay that much money for a movie they might end up having to delay for 3 or 4 months unless they know for a fact they're not moving the date. Like Godzilla vs. Kong is still coming out when it's coming out, but it's also coming to streaming. Michael, does this generate anything good or bad or anything in you whatsoever?
Honestly, no. I'm really not going to watch it. I will say that for me, I'm not going to be one of those people. Don't worry, I'm not going to actually pirate this. I would never do that. I just, for me, I'm not interested, and I want to move on. And this feels like we're going backwards because I don't know. Let me ask you this, because I don't really have any more else to say besides that. Do you think it causes harm? Like, let's say this is great. Let's just say, hypothetically, this is phenomenal, but it's not canon. Do you think that could potentially do more harm to the DC universe than it does good?
That's such a tough question. It's more or less the fans' reaction. Because before the movies even come out, you've seen all the hashtags of restore the Snyderverse and going, the reason the Snyderverse ended is because the box office returns were going downhill, not uphill. And
Right.
Snyder Cut fans are diehard, and that's awesome that they are. But the reality is the Snyder universe wasn't bringing in the casual fan, and Warner Brothers cares more about the casual fans than the diehard fans because casual fans will tell their other casual fans, and that'll bring in more money. It's what Snyder does in his approach to things is very, very niche, and that's fine. If that works for you, that's awesome. He commands a very diehard, loyal fan base. But that's not the general population. And I think people seem to keep forgetting that the reason he was fired, because make no mistake, he was fired off Justice League, despite the horrible things that happened to him, and my heart goes out to him in that sense. He was for sure fired. The reason that happened is because the box office revenue wasn't where Warner Brothers was wanting it to, and they gave him too much control off the bat. They're just like, here, you're in charge of everything, when the foundation wasn't particularly strong. Now, you say, does this do more harm than good? There's been talk of extending the Snyder universe in some capacity, whether that's in comics only, in like a limited comic run, or making it an Elseworlds universe on HBO Max. I think if it's relegated to just HBO Max, then that might be okay. Because even Zack Snyder himself has said, this is an Elseworlds. My universe is kind of like an Elseworlds, which has made me a little more comfortable going, okay, so it's the characters we know, but not, because it's an Elseworlds, which is basically comic speak for it's the characters you know, but they don't act like the characters that you know because there's a hook or a gimmick as to why they're different. I think Snyder Cut fans don't want to hear this, but I think the Snyderverse is dead with Justice League, and that's not just me thinking that, that's not just Warner Brothers thinking that. I think Snyder himself is ready to move on. He's made some statements that, like, yes, he seems to be, like, hyping up his Justice League movie, but he seems like he's got a pretty solid relationship with Netflix now, with Army of the Dead coming out later this year. I think he wants to move on to other projects. Say what you want about his movies, but I'm sure the guy's burnt out. Like, comic book movies are not easy. The Russos had to step away from Marvel eventually because they got tired. Comic book movies, or big budget movies in general, are exhausting. Correct me if I'm wrong, but he hasn't done any non-comic book movies since Man of Steel. He's poured his heart and his soul into the Snyderverse. While it hasn't been for everybody, it's not for me. I applaud his 100% attitude for this and going balls to the wall, going all in on it. The dude probably wants to do something else. That's why he's doing Army of the Dead, which is a horror movie. And supposedly that's a pretty good relationship that he's built with Netflix right there. And he's kind of on turmoil, shaky ground with Warner Brothers in terms of they might not like him and he might not like them. So maybe he moves on to a different studio. I don't see there being a future in the Snyderverse. And that's just not coming from me, who's not really a fan of it. It's more just logistically, it doesn't make a lot of financial sense to continue it and be like, well, why are they doing it for HBO Max in the first place? Because we've said before, HBO Max is desperate for anything. This is basically an $85 million marketing campaign for HBO Max, if nothing else. So I think for all parties involved, this is more or less the end of the Snyderverse. Some people will be fine with that. Other people will be mad about that. And that's just the way it is. And I think that's fine. I think I'm looking forward to this just being done so we can move past it, because you can't change the Snyder Cut fans' mind. They've already set it in their mind that this movie's going to be awesome. And that's fine if you think that. I have my jury still out. I think it'll be like his other stuff. There'll be some good stuff in it, but it just won't connect with me. And that's fine. But I think this is the end of it, at least in my mind.
But as far as, like, if it is really good, I mean, obviously that would be good for the rest of us. But, I mean, could it just, I guess I'm getting at is, could this cause some sort of a fracture amongst the fandom again? Like, is this, like, the worst case scenario if it's actually really good?
Well, the fan base can't be any more fractured than it is right now in terms of you either love Snyder with every part of your being and you will die for him, or you think he's the devil and he makes the worst movies known to man, which I hate those extremes. You can be somewhere in the middle. I think even if it's successful, it doesn't mess up their plans because they're hinging so much on Flash, and if this movie's a success, then when they are making Flash, they'll just go, well, the Snyderverse is a universe over here, and we'll just continue it in this side thing. I think they really, really want Flash to work so that they can do their multiverse thing and be like, everything that's ever happened that has the name DC on it is canon, including the Supergirl movie. So I think they're hoping Flash will make everything canon. That way, good or bad, they can say the Snyder Cut happened, if that makes sense.
Okay. Yeah, that does.